أهلا وسهلا بيكم. Welcome to this special session of SunoikisisDC. معانا النهاردة طبعا من مصر هيثم وعائشة ومنى، برحب بيهم. ومن لندن معانا دكتور جابريل بودا ودكتور فاليرا فيتالي من المعهد الدراسات الكلاسيكية. This is Dr. Gabriel Buda and Valeria Vitali from the Institute of Classical Studies, and I'm very happy to start this bilingual session. I hope we will all enjoy it. We have Haitham, as I said, and Mona and Aisha. They are from Cairo, and they are working in their projects. And I think we will have a very special one. I don't know if Gabriel or Valeria will start, but I will give the word now to you, Gabby. Valeria. Okay, so wonderful. So I will give the word for you, Valeria.
Okay, thank you, Sama. Yes, so please stop me when you want to start translating. Give me some sort of cue. I would like just to start saying that I'm really excited to do this, and thank you to your students for agreeing to doing this. Apologies, I cannot speak Arabic. I love your language, and I wish one day I will be able to give this class in Arabic, but not today, sadly. Okay, so what I'm going to present you today, it's a tool developed by Pelagios that is called Recogito, and it's a tool to annotate digital documents either in text or image format, and to create what we call semantic annotations. I won't be talking a lot about what we can do and what is the technology behind it, because we have a very short time, and I think that the best thing we can do is just to show what Recogito can do. But please stop me anytime if you have any questions. Shall I start, Usama? Shall I go to Recogito?
Shall I just translate this very quickly, ما اعتقدش ان انتم محتاجين اي ترجمه لدوت، لكن سريعا طبعا هو الفكره كلها ان دكتوره فاليريا يعني خبيره في الجزئيه ديت، وهي ريكوجيتو. وريكوجيتو زي ما قالت لنا كده هي اداه تول، ديجيتال تول للانوتيشن، او ان احنا نعمل عمليه تفسير للصور والنصوص، السيمانتيك انوتيشنز. ده تفسير بشكل سريع جدا، وهنعرف بالتفصيل دلوقتي هي ريكوجيتو دوت شكله ايه. Now to you, Valeria.
Okay. Can you share my screen, Gabby? Great, thank you. Okay, so this is Recogito's interface, and the way you add a document to your Recogito workspace is just selecting new and then uploading the file that you're interested in. Remember, if you're uploading a text file, it has to be in the TXT format, the simple text format. You won't be able to upload any other format. If it is an image, you can upload any of the major formats, so TIFF, JPEG, PNG. We will start with showing a little bit of text annotation. So I will just open a text that I have already uploaded for you. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, this one. So we have our text that is the description of Greece by Pausanias in the translation of Jones. And what can we do in Recogito with this text?
Could you zoom in a little bit, please, Valeria?
Sorry?
Could you zoom in a little bit, please, Valeria?
Sure.
Expand the text a little. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so what Recogito does basically is creating a connection between the text that you have uploaded and some external authority lists that help us disambiguating and identifying what we called named entities. And these named entities, what are they? Well, they can be a number of things, but we're going to focus on places and people mostly, and in particular places, because Pelagios is a project that deals much with place, and we will see that one of the best features of Recogito is producing a map visualization. Do you want to translate this, Usama, or shall I start the demo?
I think yes, a very quick one, so.
Okay.
ده طبعا ريكوجيتو، ده انا بعت لكم اللينك في اللي هي البرايفت شات بتاعتنا. دي اداه اللي هنشتغل عليها النهارده، والفكره كلها ان احنا في ريكوجيتو بنقدر نحمل نوعين من انواع الفايلز، الملفات. الملف النصوص زي ما انتم شغالين على ملفات نصوص لازم يبقى TXT، ده الامتداد بتاعه. اوكي، ممكن نتكلم على الامتدادات بعد كده في حلقه ثانيه، لكن TXT. لكن الايمج اي صوره تبقى موجوده عندكم هو بيعمل لها سبورت، تقدروا تحملوها من على الجهاز بتاعكم. دكتوره فاليريا هتورينا دلوقتي ازاي هنشتغل على نص معين، هو النص بتاع باوزينيوس. طبعا اظن ده واضح ليكم، اللي هو وصف اليونان، وعلى الترجمه الانجليزيه. احنا اشتغلنا على ترجمات عربيه، واعتقد ان هي تشتغل نفس الشكل برضو. والفكره كلها زي ما قالت يعمل كونكشن، نوصل ما بين كلمات موجوده ونفسرها هو ايه. التفسير ده اسمه named entities، وهتركز هي على الاماكن عشان نعمل ماب فيزواليزيشن، يعني فكره ان هو تصور بالخريطه اللي موجوده النص بيتكلم على ايه ورايح فين، وبالتالي ففي الاخر احنا نقدر نفسر النص ده سريعا كده. هي and back to you, Valeria.
So, for example, we want to annotate the places in this text. This text is particularly full of places. So, for example, we want to say that the word Troy that we find in this text is, the Troy, the famous Troy, where the war happened. So we can select this word, and this is what happened. We have this interface that asks us, what kind of annotation do you want to create? Are you talking about a place? Are you talking about a person? Or are you talking about an event? In this case, we're talking about a place. So we click on place, and this is what happens. Our interface in Recogito tries to help us disambiguating this place reference. And it's suggesting that the city of Troy here is the one in the GeoNames gazetteer that is located here. If we were sure that that was the right match, we could just click confirm. But if we wanted to see more options, we could click on change and see, okay, what are all the Troy, all the places that are called Troy that we can find in this list of authorities for places that are called gazetteers that are connected to Recogito. So we definitely don't want Troy in the United States. That's not the one we're looking for. We're looking for something that is, more based in this area. And a clue for the right place can come from the choice of the gazetteer that we pick, because the different gazetteers, these repositories of information about places, they are specific for sometimes for a time period or for an area of the word. And in this case, we want to choose a gazetteer that deals specifically with ancient places. And this gazetteer is called Pleiades. We recognize it in Recogito from the blue icon with a P. So this is the place that we want. We want the place that is the ancient city of Troy, Ilium Troia, as it appears in the gazetteer of the ancient word called Pleiades, and it's located here. And you see that my annotation as an author, that is myself, and it has a timestamp. And that means that it's a very, very small, let's say, scholarly assertion that is completely transparent and can be cited and can be tracked back. Let's say, okay. Do you want to translate this bit before I move on?
I think yes, because it's very little bit, more information at once. اعتقد ان هو الموضوع سهل جدا بالنسبه لكم، ما فيهوش اي مشكله. زي ما انتم شايفين النص بتاعنا، اول حاجه بنعمل ان احنا بنعمل سيلكت. مجرد ان احنا نعمل سيلكت على اي اسم عندنا، طبعا لازم يكون اسم مكان او حدث، وبالتالي بنعمل سيلكت ليه، بيظهر لنا بوكس. في البوكس دوت بنحاول بنكتب الترانسكرايب المكان دوت باللغه الانجليزيه. بعدين يطلع لنا مجموعه من الاوبشنز زي ما شفنا كده. من الاوبشنز ديت لو هو كان سليم خلاص بنعمل كونفيرم وبتنتهي المساله زي ديت. لكن لو ما كانش بنقول لا تشينج، نغيره، وبالتالي بنروح على الجازيتيز اللي هو ده تقريبا الايه الداتابيز او فكره قاعده البيانات بتاع الاسامي، البليسز اللي موجوده. ومنها هنلاقي العلامه الزرقاء بتاعت بليادس، وده طبعا هو الستاندرد بتاع البليس نيمز. ونختار منها اذا كان هو انشنت، لان احنا شغالين على نصوص اكتر الاماكن اللي فيها بتدل على اماكن قديمه. بنختار الانشنت بليس نيمز، ده زي كلمه التروي او مكان تروي اللي هي طروادة القديمه، وبالتالي فاحنا بنختارها. ومن هنا بيظهر لنا عندنا فكره ان هو انا اسمي موجود اهوت، وتايم ستامب، يعني فكره كمان انا في اللحظه دهيت عملت انوتيشن او فسرت كلمه تروي انها تدل على المكان القديم اللي هنا دوت. وبالتالي فزي ما اتقال ان هو سايتد، يعني ممكن تقول ان انا اللي عملت الكلام ده. سايتد يعني ان انا استشهد بيه، وتراكت باك ممكن ان انا اقول لا والله الكلام ده مش صحيح، دي مش تروي، دي مدينه جنبها وما الى ذلك. واعتقد ان كل ما نتحرك في البرنامج هنقدر ناخد بالنا ايه الامكانيات الكبيره بتاعته يعني. And now back to you, Valeria.
But Recogito tries to facilitate this annotation process using some, let's say, computational power. So, for example, if the word that you have annotated as the city of the ancient city of Troy appears again in the text, Recogito can reapply the same annotation to all the subsequent occurrences if we say yes. So the word Troy appears 12 more times in this text, and we can reapply the same annotation if we want to. So let's just say yes. And then we see, sorry, I have to zoom out a little bit. And then we see that there will be another annotation with Troy that I have not created, that's been created automatically by Recogito just because the same word reoccurs. And this happens for all the parts of an annotation. For example, you see that here we have a field for comments and a field for tags. And tags are very useful to add richness to your annotation. For example, if we wanted to say, I don't know, that Troy is a city, that's not a great tag, but let's do that. And say, okay. We can also reapply the same tag to all the annotations we have created if we want to. If we say yes, then let's find another Troy. Every Troy will also have the tag city that I have created only once, but then I have reapplied automatically to all the occurrences of the same named entity. That's to you, Sama.
Thank you. I had to mute myself. اعتقد ان هو ده يعني ميزه، هي دي الميزه بقى. احنا بنتكلم على كمان انه النيمد انتيتي ريكوجنيشن ده مش مجرد بس ان هو بنقول المكان ده ايه، لا كمان ان هو في النص كله. تخيل ان كلمه ترو ديت جت في الجزء ده، في الشابتر ده، في الفصل ده، في السكشن ده، جت لي 12 مره. وبالتالي فمجرد ان انا اخدتها مره واحده ده سهل لي ان كله يتعمل لها انوتيشن، لقى تروي وعرفها اوتوماتيك، وابتدى ان هو يقول لي طب انت عايز الكلام ده، عايز تروي ديت تبقى كلها بليس نيم. بنقول له لو قلنا له يس يبقى كل تروي في النص كله تم عملها. تخيل لو انت عندك الايه الباوزن يس في كله، وبالتالي يقول مثلا ظهر 100 200 300 400 مره، هتلاقيك مجرد لحظه مجرد خطوه واحده خليتك تعمل انوتيشن او تفسير لكلمه تروي في كل النص من اول لاخر. دي حاجات، ده مثال بسيط لكن استخداماته طبعا انتوا تقدروا تفهموه. النقطه كمان اللي اتكلمنا عليها، النقطه التاسعه، اللي هي الكومنتس والتاجز، فكره التعليقات والتاجز. والتاج هنا فكره انك بتضيف حاجه كمان، يعني بتضيف مثلا تقول مش بس بليس نيم، لا ده سيتي. طبعا المثال بسيط جدا، سيتي مثلا مدينه مش قريه، اوكي، كانت مدينه كبيره وما الى ذلك، وبالتالي ممكن تزود تقول مدينه قديمه، او سيتي كانت ان هي مسرح للعمليات الحربيه في الملحمه الكبيره لليازم. ده كل دي حاجات ممكن انك تحطها، وبالتالي فبرضه نفس الحكايه، كل الانتيتي او النيمد انتيتي اللي موجوده في النص هتبقى يعني خلاص جالها الكلام ده وبقت موجوده عندنا. And now back to you.
Okay. So I told you that one of the best features of Recogito is to generate maps of your annotation based on the information that is in the gazetteer. And I want to give you an example of that. So let's take a text or a collection, a small collection of text that has been annotated by other students. And let's move from we are now in the document view, but let's move to the map view. So what happens is that we can see on the map the locations of all the places that have been mentioned in the text that you have annotated. And you see that the dots on the map have different size, because the more times a place gets annotated, the bigger is the dot on the map. And if we click on one dot, this is a collection of epigraphies that have been annotated. These are epigraphies that have been found in the theater of Dionysus. If we click on one annotation, we can know exactly how many times it has been annotated. So it has been annotated 13 times. And we can browse the annotations one by one. And we can check, you know, the mention in a little bit of context. And you see, and if you want to double check something in your text, you can also click on jump to text, and you will be brought back to exactly the same place where the annotation was created. So this is really the biggest, the strongest feature in Recogito, the ability to visualize on a map your annotation and to create a connection between the map visualization and the text visualization.
Shall I translate this?
Yeah.
اعتقد ان دي فعلا ابتدى واحده واحده كده يبان لنا الميزه بتاعه الروكوجيتو، وبالتالي فزي ما شفنا كده واتحركنا. الميزه الكبيره قوي فكره ان احنا عندنا هنا الخريطه، ازاي انك انت من نص ايا كان النص اللي انت شغال عليه بتنقل من الماب نفسها للخريطه نفسها. وشوفنا ان الانتقال سهل قوي في البرنامج، مجرد انك تتك على كلمه ماب فيو او الشكل اللي عندك، شكل الماب دوت، بتنتقل للخريطه. وبالتالي فلو انت مثلا عملت تفسير ل4 5 6 7 نصوص، او مجموعه الوثائق اللي هي اتعملت دي اللي هي النقوش، احنا بنتكلم بقى مش بس نص كلاسيكي، لا ده نقوشه كمان هي، وبالتالي فبنلاقيها على هيئه دوتس، على هيئه نقط. النقط دي كل نقطة بتعبر عن كمية الاتستيشنز، كمية الوجود الريفرنس في النص نفسه. يعني كل ما الكلمه اتكررت مثلا 50 مره هتبقى اكبر من مثلا 5 مرات او 10 مرات، وبالتالي لو اتكيت عليها هيجيب لي الاتستيشنز كلها، الفقرات اللي ذكرت فيها كلمه رويدا، وابتدي ان انا واحده واحده اشوف اولا العدد هومني قد ايه، ثم بعد كده استعرضها واحده واحده. يعني انا مش مجرد ان انا بخش للنص بس، لا ده انا ممكن اخش لكل النصوص اللي ذكرت، المدينه دي او المكان ده وذكر فيها. تمام. فكره الجامبنج بقى بين التكست نفسه والماب، وفكره عمليه التصور على الخريطه ديت للنصوص، وبالتالي لان اكتر النصوص بتتعامل مع الكلام ده، ودي فكره الربط بين النص وبين الخريطه، دي من اقوى الحاجات في روكوجيتو. And now back to you, Valeria.
Okay. Now I want to show you very quickly annotation of entities that are not places. They could be persons or events. So let's give a quick example of persons from the Argonautica, the book first. So let's find a character like King Pelias. So the principle is pretty much the same. We just highlight the word, but this time, instead of clicking on place, we click on person. And we don't have the same direct connection that we have with gazetteers to disambiguate the person, but we can still create an annotation, and we can see later how these annotations can become actually very useful. And we can still add tags and say that King Pelias was, I don't know, a man, and maybe that it was human, I guess, something like that. All right. You can, again, reapply the annotations as we have seen before for people and not just for places. So we can say yes to that. And another thing that I wanted to show you are overlapping annotations, which are particularly useful when we're talking about people. So for example, in this sentence, we have the uncle of Aeson's son. So in this case, we have quite a number of people that are mentioned here. So we have Aeson, for example, that is a person. But we also have Aeson's son, that is another person. And we even have the uncle of Aeson's son, that is a third person. And you can also change the color coding of your document view by choosing entity type. In this case, you will see the person annotations as blue and the place annotations as green and the event annotation as purple. But what I wanted to show you is that you can create overlapping annotations when there are, more entities that are named. Over to you, Sama.
Thank you. Thank you, Valeria. Now, دلوقتي احنا هنروح بقى مش مجرد المكان ده، كمان الاسامي، وده برضه نفس الحكايه. واحنا شغالين على النصوص بتاعتنا دايما بيبقى موجود عندنا مجموعه من الاسامي اللي احنا لازم نعملها ديسامبيجويشن او تفسير. وبالتالي الامثله اللي جات لنا دلوقتي 3 امثله، وبنفس الشكل بنختار هايلايت، بنختاره، وبعد ما نختاره نقول ان هو بيرسون، وبعدين لو عايزين نعمله ريتش، وبالتالي فالنقطه دي اعتقد ان هي واضحه قوي. وبالتالي بعد ما يحصل الكلام ده بنلاقي عندنا مجموعه من الاسامي اللي حصل لها تفسير. طيب الجديد بقى في البيرسونز او حاجه يعني بنتعرف عليها هنا فكره الاوفرلابنج انوتيشن، يعني التفسيرات المتداخله. والمثال ده جميل قوي، فكره اللي هو الانكل بتاع ذا انكل اوف ايسون سان، يعني العم او الخال بتاع ابن ياسون. وبالتالي فهنا الاول بنختار ياسون، وبعد ما نختاره بنختار ده برضو اسم هوت اللي هو ابنه، ثم نختار العم. وبالتالي فاحنا في عندنا عمليه اختيار متعدد لنفس الكلمات ديت، وفي ميزه كمان اتعرفنا عليها، فكره الكالر او فكره ان هو اللون، ان احنا ممكن نخلي الاسامي بشكل ونخلي الاماكن بشكل تاني، وبالتالي فيحصل عندنا نوع من عمليه برضه نفس الحكايه فيجواليزيشن، فكره ان انا بشوف الحاجه قدامي، بشوف الاسامي، بشوف المواقع. And now back to you, Valeria.
Yes. And last, about text, I want to show you another thing that might be very useful in Recogito, which is our algorithm that performs an automatic named entity recognition. This is something that you will hear often referred as NER, which stands for named entity recognition. So the way that you run an NER algorithm in Recogito, I'm going to show it to you how to do it, but then we will use a file that has already received the algorithm, so we don't waste time. But you selected the document that you're interested in, let's say our Argonautica by Apollonius, and you go to options, and then you select this named entity recognition, and you click on it. So you have to choose two things at this point. One is the language of the text that you want to analyze, because NER algorithms are language specific. And we don't have all languages. Sadly, we don't have Arabic. But if you don't find exactly the language that you're looking for, you may try to go for the closest one. In this case, our text is in English, so we will select English. This algorithm was developed by the Stanford University. The other thing that we can select are the gazetteers that we want to use. So we said that these gazetteers are our authority lists about places, and we said that they are specific about a place, about a time period, about a theme. So maybe we don't need all of the gazetteers that are in Recogito when we analyze our document. And that will, let's say, make the processing lighter. So for example, yes, I want the gazetteer of the ancient world when analyzing an ancient text. Maybe I don't need the China historical gazetteer because we are not mentioning places about China. We are not mentioning places in early modern London. We are not mentioning places in South America, and we can maybe get rid of this just because sometimes doesn't have the location. And then you click Start NER. I'm not going to do that because that's going to take a few minutes, but I'm going to show you what happens when you do run the algorithm. So I ran the algorithm on in exactly the same way that I showed you on the first 8 books of the Iliad, and this is what we have. So we have a number of words that have been pre-highlighted by Recogito, and they are all gray in this color coding by verification status. That means they are all automatic matches. They need to be verified by a person. So for example, if I click here, it has identified this as a person, which is wrong. And let's say that we want that as a place. Let's not reapply right now. But you see that now the color has changed. It has become green because this annotation has been verified by an actual user, that is me. And you see that it has also pre-highlighted some persons and suggested, that they are persons indeed, and so on. So this can be a way to perform quite a number of annotations automatically. We could even have a look at the map, and these are the places that have been automatically annotated by the algorithm. So we don't know how much reliable they are, but it could be a very useful first pass, and we can actually choose to visualize only the places that we know are verified. So we know only this little green dot is actually verified. Everything else has been generated by our algorithm. To you, Sama?
Yeah, thank you, Valeria. أعتقد إن ده هيبقى حاجة كويسة أوي سواء لهيثم أو لعائشة وهم شغالين على النص بتاعهم. طبعا انتوا شغالين على حاجات لغويه الى حد كبير، لكن في نفس الوقت زي ما انتم شايفين كده هي فكره الاوتوماتيك، يعني فكره انك انت لو جبت حتى الترجمه الانجليزيه للنص اللي انت شغال عليه، نمره واحد بتختار سيلكت عشان تروح للان اي ار او النيمد انتيتي ريكوجنيشن، يعني فكره انك تشغل خوارزميه تعرف لك كل الحاجات اللي موجوده وتعملها بشكل سريع. سيلكت، بعدين تختار اوبشن، بعدين تختار اللي هو النيمد انتيتي ريكوجنيشن لانجوج اللغه بتاعتها، وبعدين بنختار الجازيتيرز، يعني فكره انت عايز تقول الكلام ده من خلال يعني التعرف الاوتوماتيكي ده يتم من خلال اي نوع من انواع القوائم. فاحنا بنختار باليادس مثلا ونختار معاها حاجه ثانيه اللي هو الاسامي بتاع الرومان امباير، او لو كنا بنشتغل بطلمي او حاجه زي كده، ثم بعد كده نقول له ايه ابتدي، وما نختارش كتير عشان ما يتقالش الموضوع. لما يبتدي مثلا فاليريا عملت لنا على الالياذه الثمان كتب الاولانيه بتاعتها، وساعه ما عملتها طبعا قول هياخد دقيقه دقيقتين ثلاثه يعمل لنا بري هايلايت، يعني فكره ان هو يعلم باللون الجراي، باللون اللي هو الرمادي، الاسامي والاماكن والاحداث في النص دوت. وبيحتاج بعد كده بس احنا نعملها فيريفيكيشن. فكره الفيريفيكيشن انك انت بتقول ده يس، لانك انت خلاص ده ماشين اكشنبل، هنا هيومن اكشنبل، هنا عملت حاجه هي، فاحنا نقول فيريفاي نوت فيريفايد. المثال اللي جه مثال اليوم قال ان هو بيرسون، لا ده مش بيرسون ده مكان، وبالتالي احنا نعمله ويتحول من اللون الرمادي الى اللون الاخضر الجري. ده اوتوماتيك انوتيشن ديت مهمه جدا، لانك انت ساعه ما بتقفل او تروح للماب فيو بتلاقي النص بتاعك متوزع على ايه. انت عايز سوفوكليس ده كان بيتكلم على اماكن، تمام، انت عايز تفهم المعنى بتاع السبتوجنت كانت بتتكلم على اي اماكن الناس بتتحركوا منين واي مجموعه من الناس، وكيف انت تقدر تعمل الفيريفايد او النوت فيريفايد في الماب فيو، تقول والله وريني بس الفيريفايد اوكي او النوت فيريفايد. وبالتالي فاحنا كل ما نغذي روكو جيتو دوت بالمعلومات يقدر يدينا متكامله عن النص ده بيتكلم عن اني مكان. Now back to you, Valeria.
Yes. Do I have 5 minutes more to talk about the relationship? When I should hand it over to Gabby?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to our Iliad, because I want to show you something else that we can do. So let's move to entity type. So let's say that let's create this entity here. This is a person, okay, yes. Okay, this is just instrumental to me because I want to show you something. Let's annotate Agamemnon as well as a person. Okay, so I want to show you one more feature in text about Recogito, and it's another kind of annotation, and this is called relations. You have to select it from here, and what relations does is creating a connection between two entities that you have annotated in the text. So for example, if you want to say that Thetis is the mother of Achilles, what you can do, you select relations and you drag and drop your pointer from Thetis to Achilles, and then you define the relationship that you can say is mother of, for example. And now you see that there is a dotted line that connects Thetis to Achilles, that it has an arrow because this relationship is hierarchical, so it needs a direction. So Thetis is the mother of Achilles, it only goes in this direction, and there is a tiny label that reminds you what is the relationship. And let's say that we also want to say that Peleus is the father of Achilles, so we can do the same thing. For example, but let's also think of something less joyous and familiar. We can say that Achilles and Agamemnon are not in a very good relationship. We could say that Achilles was actually offended by Agamemnon. And you can go on and annotate various entities in the text, and it is already an interesting way to highlight some of the relationships that emerge in the text. So it's a very good, let's say, exploratory tool. But what is the best outcome of this thing, the way that I really wanted to show it to you, is that you can then go into the download options of the annotations that you have created in Recogito, and select specifically to download the relations that you have created. In particular, this basic CSV. I'm going to show it to you how it looks like. And it's a very simple table of data, of comma separated data. It has only three. It has only three columns with the relations that you have created. And what you can do with this kind of file is actually create very easily a network graph. And in particular, if you use the free software Gephi, which you may have heard of, let's open Gephi. I'm going to show you how this kind of annotation looks like in Gephi. There should be. Okay. There are a couple of more annotations in this example, but you can see that it's basically the same thing that we were talking about. So we have Achilles that is connected to Peleus, is connected to Thetis, and is connected to Agamemnon with different kind of relationship. But also Agamemnon is connected to Chryses and so on. And you can really see in ancient texts, how useful it would be to build these kind of networks and to visualize this kind of relationship between places, between people, and so on. Sorry, Usama, I talked too much. Over to you.
No, thank you. This is very interesting. دي حاجة ممتازة جدا، وأنا يعني بصراحة اتعلمت منها هي. طبعا اخر حاجه ختمت بيها، وده مسك الختام فعلا حقيقي، فكره عمليه التصور او التخيل للعلاقات بين الافراد. احنا شفنا ازاي الاماكن تبتدي الافراد اللي موجوده عندنا، وبالتالي فاحنا بنروح على انتيتي تايب، بنختار البيرسونز اللي موجودين في النص بتاعنا، نبتدي نعمل العلاقات. مثلا اخيليس واجامemnon كانوا مثلا في علاقه بينهم يعني مضطربه، او علاقه طبيعيه جدا، علاقه الام مثلا ثيستت اللي هي ام اخيليس، او علاقه الاب بيليوس هو كذا and so on. وبالتالي على مدى النص بتاعنا كله نبتدي نتكلم بالشكل ده، ولما نخلص هنلاقي عندنا فكره ايه، ان احنا نعمل داونلود للكلام ده. اول حاجه في داونلود، وبالتالي فانت النص بتاعك حتى السبتوجنتا، سوفوكليس، بتشتغل حتى على الاسطوره، بكلم منى، تقدري تعرفي ايه العلاقه اللي موجوده في الافراد، لان انت بتعملي سكوجرافي، وبالتالي تقدري اولا تنزليها على تيبل، تعملي تيبل، والتيبل ده هيبقى فيه 3 كولومن بالظبط في النصوص بتاعتك كلها، والنص والامتداد بتاعه CSV خلاص مفيش حاجه. وبالتالي فده اول حاجه، تعملي تيبل ليكي لشغلك، او كمان الاحدث والاحدث يعني، والحاجه اللي تعمل فيجواليزيشن حتى في الرساله بتاعتك، انك تعمل نتورك شبكه كامله للعلاقات. وده لان جافي دوت فري اوف تشارج، تنزله ببلاش وتعمل ابلود للملف بتاعك، وبالتالي تقدر تعمل نتورك في النص بتاعك ايا كان. يعني ممكن تقعد تشتغل اسبوع ولا حاجه وتلاقي في الاخر عندك نتورك، لا اما تستعملها كتيبل في قلب الرساله بتاعتك، لا اما تستعملها كنتورك فيجواليزيشن، او الاثنين تاخد شوت للنتورك ديت. فاعتقد ان دي كانت حاجه جديده جدا. و back to you, Valeria. Thank you very much.
I will end with showing very quickly an example of image annotation, and then I'll be over to Gabriel. So I want to show you how Recogito works with images very quickly, and I will use this one. This is good. These early word maps. The way that you can use Recogito on images is very similar to text. It's just the interface that changes a little bit. So you can zoom in and out the image using the plus and minus. You can rotate and do a number of other things that you find here in the help. But mostly you can use these tools, and these tools allow you to annotate either a single point in the map. Let's try and do that. Let's find a single point that we want. This one, this row. So let's create a point here on Rome. And you see that now in our interface, we have an extra field that is called transcribe, because here we can write the name of the place and then say place. And we don't want Rome in Kima because it's unlocated. Let's pick Rome in our Pleiades Gazetteer and say, okay. Let's zoom in again. And we see that we have our point annotation, but the most interesting thing for me when annotating images, not only maps, things that you can also annotate manuscripts and papyri and things like that, is to actually select a portion of the image. For example, selecting either the rectangle or the till box. So for example, if we wanted to annotate Ipona, we just create a box around the area that we want to annotate. We transcribe the name, that in this case looks like this. We say place. So it's telling us that it doesn't found anything by the name Ipona. But the thing is that it's just this particular spelling that is a little bit unfamiliar. If this happens and you think that the place actually is in the Gazetteer, you can click on search and just try another spelling of the same place. I will try with the Italian one. I think, okay, let's use the map to disambiguate. The Ipona that we want is in Tunisia, so it must be this one. Yes. And we say, okay. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but there is an area that is overlaid on the word Ipona. We can change the color maybe to make it more visible. Okay, you can probably see it better now. And if we go on the map view that we have seen before, we see that we can find our annotation of Rome, and here is our annotation of Ipona. And when we click on the map, we see the selection of the part of the image that we have selected. To you, Sama?
Thank you very much for this. والحاجه برضو الجميله قوي في ريكوجيتو برضو انك انت مش بس كمان تستخدم النصوص، انت ممكن تستخدمها على الصور البردي، على المانuscripts، على المخطوطات. اذا كانت بتاع السبتواجنتا او اي حاجه، او حتى على المابس اللي هي الايه الخرائط الموجوده، سواء كانت خرائط جديده، خرائط بالعربي، اي نوع من انواع الخرائط. وبالتالي فاحنا بنختار نفس الحكايه، بنعمل هايلايت على الجزء اللي احنا عايزينه، ثم بعد كده نعمل ترانسكرايب، يعني بنكتب الاسم نفسه. والترانسكريبشن دوت بنشوف السبيلنج بتاعنا. والله المثال بتاع ايبونا او هيبونا دوت من اليوناني طبعا للاتيني، وبالتالي فهو لا اما اتش لا اما يو، وبالتالي فاحنا بنختار الايه السبيلنج اللي نقدر من خلاله نربطه بالموجود في الجازيتير. وكمان نقدر نغير الشكل بتاع المستطيل اللي احنا بنحطه، او حتى لو كان تلتد يعني مايل شويه كده او مظبوط او ما الى ذلك، نقدر ان احنا نغير الشكل ونغير اللون بتاعه عشان نقدر نعمل انتيتي، وبرضه نعمل لها فيجواليزيشن. والله النص بتاع الاستراكه دي بتتكلم على اي اماكن، الاماكن دي موجوده فين، ال10 اشتراكات ال20 اشتراكه بتاعه بيتكلموا عن ايه، النص بتاعي في السبتواجنتا بيتكلم عن ايه، النص بتاع سوفوكليس بيتكلم عن اي مجموعه مدن في بلاد اليونان. بالتالي اعتقد ان ده برضه حاجه مهمه قوي. And now back to you.
I will stop here to leave Gabby enough time. I just wanted to add that at this address that I'm very happy to share, there is a very, very detailed tutorial of Recogito with, you know, a lot of screenshots that explains how to use the NER algorithm, for example. It explains how to use the relations and so on. So for anything that was not clear or you might forget, you can always refer to the tutorial, and of course feel free to get in touch with me anytime. Thank you.
Could you post that address in the live chat?
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Then anyone watching this on
yes.
on YouTube can get it as well.
Excuse me, Dr. Osama, I would like to ask a question. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And I think recogito in Latin verb meaning that think in mind. So how can I link between interpretation, translation, and recogito? Another asking, can the place, the name be interrupted of literal meaning? When I say Herodotus, I mean that here a gift healing. So can I interrupt the name of the person or the name of the places, the literal meaning for that place or that person, and the source of the name of the places or the person, is that Greek or another language derived from Hebrew, as like Cain in Septuaginta and Abraham in Septuaginta, and so on. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure I got the entirety of your question because you were slightly breaking up. So I will start answering. I probably won't answer everything, but if you can please then ask me the bits that I missed. I want to give you a complete answer. So I think that you asked me about linking different interpretations or even different translations. Was that what you were talking about? Okay. One thing that Recogito enables to do is the comparison of different documents, which I think might be relevant to you. For example, if you had 3 texts that all refer to the same place, but giving different interpretations, this is definitely something that you can show in Recogito. I'm going to show you an example of that. And you tell me if this is something that is relevant to you. So, for example, we have here 5 different authors that are all giving their view on the same or almost the same geographical place that is, you know, what was called Arabia in ancient times. And they all mentioned or sometimes mention the same places, sometimes they don't. And you can annotate, you know, the text together and then visualize them together in a single map. Don't pay attention to these annotations. Most of them are automatic, so this is just an example. And one thing that you could do is choose a color visualization by part. So you would know what are the places mentioned by one author and the places mentioned by another author. And when you see something that is white, that means that more than one author has mentioned that place. And you can compare, for example, what they've said about that same place. This could be a possible application if we're talking about places. If you're talking about other different kind of entities, another thing that you could do could be using the tags. For example, if you're annotating mention of places again, and an author is, let's say, hostile towards a population or some places, so maybe uses a different language, and another author is it's celebratory of those same places, you could tag those assertions with different tags, and you could then, perform a visualization by tags, which is another thing that you can do in Recogito. I'm looking for an example of visualization by tag. Okay, let's look at this one, for example. It's just an example of visualization by tag. So according to the tag that you have assigned to your assertions, then they receive a different color in the visualization. But bear in mind that this is possible only if you're talking about places. If you want to talk about different entities, then we need to think a little bit more creatively of a way to use this tool. And if you send me some examples of what you want to do, I'm very happy to have a conversation about that. And if you could help me with the second part of your question, because I'm not sure I got that.
Well, one thing I would just quickly add to that is that some of the things that, as I understood it, Haytham is interested in doing is looking at different features of the entity that's been annotated, including of the particular name that's been annotated. So if a person is annotated in one text with one name and in another text with a slightly different version of that name, but you want to say they're the same person, then the place to include a lot of that disambiguation information may well be in the authority list, the gazetteer if it's places, the prosopographical authority list if it's people, where you can say this person is called in Arabic, in Hebrew, in Greek, in English, whatever, and you can disambiguate and say they're all the same person or they're all references to the same entity, but you can attach language to the annotation, of course, as a tag. But it's not in the annotation that you put that complex information which doesn't really belong to the text. Information that you're adding about the entity, that belongs in the authority.
I would think so. You can, when annotating places, if you want, keep track of the different. If the same place is mentioned in different ways, when you always annotate it with against the same gazetteer entry, then all the possible spelling will show in your visualization, which can be a good feature. But in principle, I do agree that the annotation is not the best place to express that richness of information.
Thank you very much.
Let's speak this quickly, or
Thank you very much.
اعتقد ان ده يعني سؤالك مهم قوي يا هيثم، واعتقد ان ده سؤال ممتاز جدا. بس هو الإجابة الأخيرة إن هو الانوتيشن أو فكرة التفسير على الانتيتي اللي موجودة ديت، زي ما أنت قلت كده، اسم مثلا إبراهيم في كذا، في اليوناني في اللاتيني وفي العبري، ده مثال مهم قوي، ده هو ده اللي احنا بنعمله. بس ده بيروح في النهاية للاثوريتي ليست او فكره الجازيتير اللي موجوده او البروسبوجرافيكال داتابيز اللي موجوده، ده بيروح للنقطه دي بيغذيها، تمام، عشان بعد كده نقدر ان احنا نعمل لها اكسبورت، او ان احنا نقول والله ده اللي بنتكلم على الانتيتي اللي احنا بنتكلم عليها دي، سواء بيرسون او بليس نيم او ايفنت، هو بس مذكور باشكال مختلفه. بس كلامك مهم قوي في النقطه دي، لان احنا بالبليس نيمز ممكن كمان نعمل زي ما انت شفت كده الفيجواليزيشن بتاعها من خلال الكالرز، اول حاجه بالالوان، ده برضو يفيد وانت شغال كده عشان تشوف المؤلفين دول اتكلموا عن الموضوع ازاي وذكروا ايه وما الى ذلك، الكالرز، تمام، او بالتاجز. فدولت الحاجتين الاثنين اللي هم دكتوره فاليريا ورتهم لنا، بحيث ان احنا نحاول ان احنا نعمل فيجواليزيشن للنص بتاعنا او الماب او وات ايفر اللي احنا بنشتغل بيه. بس كلامك، شغلك الرئيسي اللي هو اهتمامك الرئيسي ده بيبقى في زي ما جابي قال ان هو بيبقى في الاثوريتي ليست او فكره الايه البروسبوجرافي او الجازيتير اللي عندنا. Now back to you, Gabi.
Another question, please, Dr. Osama. As we see in Hebrew, in Greek, Abraham is mega ethnos, is a great nation. This is a transliteration from Hebrew text. So I would like to the true meaning of that. In Quran, we meaning that Ibrahim is a great nation, but he is not sent to great nation. So he used is position in Greek. That is.
Aysam? You are breaking. So I would say that I would say that the translation will be, كويس. السؤال بتاع الترجمه اعتقد ان هو جابي هيقدر ان هو في الترانسليشن الاينمنت برضه نخش للنقطه ديت بشكل تفصيلي اكتر. فخلينا نخلص الحلقه وهنخش بالتفصيل فيها في نهايه الحلقه ديت. I think now back to you, Gabi, and I think you will give answer to this.
So I would also add that that both the annotation tool that Recogito is an example of, and the alignment tool that we'll see an example of in a moment, are tools toward this sort of interpretation, and you can use these tools to create data which you can then analyze elsewhere. So Recogito won't necessarily be the place to do all of this analysis, and it certainly can't do this sort of multilingual philological analysis natively, but it is nor is the translation alignment tool going to do all this sort of thing natively. But they're both ways of creating data that you can then use, and we can talk about that in more detail at another session maybe. For now, I want to talk fairly quickly, and I will talk fairly briefly about the Ugarit tool. I talked a little bit last week. We weren't online, but I talked a little bit about translation alignment and what the potentials are. And for the purposes of this session, I want to use this tool, Ugarit, which has been created by Tariq Yusuf in Leipzig University for his research. And this is partly a tool that enables you to create translation alignment annotations yourself. But it's also partly a tool that generates data that can be taken away and used elsewhere. So you can see just on the front page of the Ugarit website, you can see this network visualization here with all these bubbles containing the names of languages, and you can see from the relationships between them and from the size of the individual bubbles the number of annotations that have been made and which languages have been aligned to each other. So you can see, for example, that the largest number of annotations has probably been from ancient Greek, and ancient Greek's been annotated to many, many different languages. English has also been annotated to many languages. Latin and Farsi have also been annotated quite a lot. You can see Arabic on here. Arabic has been annotated alongside French texts, English texts, German texts, ancient Greek texts, Japanese and Ethiopic, as far as I can see. So not a huge number, but there have been a few languages have been aligned to Arabic, and it's a modest size, but it's nevertheless it's a dynamic graph. So Arabic has disappeared into the middle of the circle again, but you see the idea, I think. So you see the number of pairs of annotations between these languages. So from having created these annotations, there are probably a few hundred translation pairs, which is to say Arabic words with English translations next to them that have been generated from this process. And likewise, Arabic words with ancient Greek translations, Arabic words with other translations that have been created. You can see from the statistics over here on the right that 23,000 texts in 36 languages have been annotated, and this has created 450,000 translation pairs. And a translation pair is where, you know, the word wa has been assigned as a translation of the word and, or the word kai, or the word und, or whatever, depending on which languages it's been aligned to. These translation pairs sometimes, because some translations are not very close, they sometimes lead to odd and idiosyncratic translations that might appear in one text that might not be very useful for anybody at all. But statistically, if a word has been translated 100 times, a few of those will be weird and idiosyncratic translations that only turn up once each, and the vast majority of them will be the 1 or 2 or 3 useful translations, which can be used programmatically to feed into other kinds of tools. And this is what I mean by this is a way of creating data which can then be taken away and used elsewhere. If you're using this to look at name variants and the way different names are translated between languages and between versions of a text, this wouldn't answer your questions, but it would give you the data that you could then take away and put into some other process and annotate it, and you know, query it and search it and analyze it elsewhere. Osama, did you want to give a quick summary of that? Osama, are you still there? If not, I'll continue. So the other thing I was going to show just quickly then is how to go about adding texts yourself and creating the aligned translation between them. I see that we've lost Osama briefly from the call, but he'll be back, I'm sure. So in this interface here with Ugur at the front page, there's the link to this. I think you can probably see, but we've looked at it before. And in fact, I'll post it in the comments just to be. To make it a little bit easier to find. To create your own alignment, you simply go to this button here on the menu, Translation Alignment Editor, and you can create, welcome back, Osama, you can create either an alignment of 2 languages, which is the default, so it just says new alignment, or a new alignment between 3 languages. And this is if, for example, you have a Greek text with a Latin translation and an Arabic translation, and you wanted to align all 3 to each other. I'll start just with an alignment between 2 languages, because that keeps things slightly simpler. So this simply takes us to this page, and you can either enter in here a URN of which is a unique computational identifier for a snippet of text. That's slightly more complex, and I'm not sure how to do that actually. But the simplest way is to simply choose your text, and I'm going to go from an ancient Greek text to an English translation. Just for the purpose of this demonstration, and I've previously loaded up on my computer a reference to the first, let's say, 8 lines or so of the book 24 of the Iliad. Apologies, I should have copied and pasted it separately earlier, but so there's the first 8 lines or so. I go back into here and paste that into the Greek side. You might want to tidy this up a little bit, because there is, for example, a 5 in the margin there, which you don't want to be part of your text. I'll quickly scan through that there's not any other punctuation that we don't want, but it looks like it's okay. I'll then go to the English, and again, I want the first 8 lines or so. I think that takes us to here. And I copy that. And I paste that into the English side of the annotation. And again, I will remove some artifacts, such as the line numbers that we don't want. And I think that's all okay. I'll make that a little bit bigger, make that easier to read. I think that looks okay. And then I simply click on Align. This will, it should, I think it's logged me out. Okay, apologies. Let me just log myself back in there. Sorry, I have to do that again. Okay. Sorry, I logged in before the session started, and I forgot that it logs you out quite quickly in, if you're not using it. So we have the ancient Greek. Let me just quickly get rid of the number like we did last time. Apologies, I should have checked that I was logged in before I did this. Okay, so I've got the Greek on the left, the English on the right, and I select Align. And in order to save this to the database, which is what I need to do before I can start working on it, I need to give it a title. That's the main thing I need to give it. So I'm just going to say Iliad 24, 1 to 8. Then I can save it to the database. So then I've done some other texts in the past. You'll when you do this, this will be the first one you have. Iliad 28, 1 to 8. Here is the 2 versions of the text, the Greek and the English, side by side. And I can simply, is that large enough to see? I'm trying to get it all on one screen, but
I think it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. That might be something maybe. Anyway, so then you can then start your alignment. With the process of aligning, the question becomes, am I going to attempt to align one word in English to one word in Greek each time, which is not always going to be possible, as you know, when translating between 2 languages? Or am I going to try and translate the phrases or clauses that, to align the phrases and clauses that translate from the Greek? In this case, we know that the English is a translation of the Greek. That's not always the case. Sometimes we have 2 versions of a text in different languages that we may not know the relationship between them quite so accurately. But I can say here something. So, okay, the first word of the English is then, which I guess is loosely speaking translating de and, because it's signifying progression. So that's what happened next, right? But I'm not sure I really want to translate the Greek de with the English then, or do I? What does anyone think? Is that a good translation?
I think yes, yeah.
You think it's close enough? Okay. So I click on the Greek, and then I click on the English, and then I click on this little compact disc save button up here, and you can see my translation pairs appearing down there on the right-hand side. So I can then say quickly things like agon is gathering, luto, I guess, is broken up. I mean, that's what's translating, whether it's a good translation or not. And that's slightly better there. The folk, I guess that's laoi. Okay, this becomes a little bit more complicated, doesn't it then? So Epineas Hekastoi is to his own ship, or is it even each to his own ship? Something like that. So it becomes more complex than just one word to one word. Ieni is to go. Why have I missed Esgidnant? What is Esgidnant? Is that scattered? Osama, help me. Or anyone else?
I suppose each one to go was gathering.
I should have prepared this text, but I mean, you can also go through and annotate the the words that So toymen, I guess, is the rest. It's a loose translation. It's some did one thing. So what words do we know? Hypno, there's sleep. We know that. Glukeru, sweet, I guess. Okay, Achilles, we know him. Autar is but. So so I'm starting to create. Then you see down the right hand side here this list of translation pairs that have been created from my I think so. Memnenos, remembering, etc. So more sleep over here. Philu, comrade. Will be another but down here. Enther, kai, enther, ever to this side or to that. I guess that's the. So anyway, we now have over here this list of translation pairs, and you can translate this as you see fit. I won't go through and do the whole thing. I just wanted to give this sort of sense. I will now save changes, and you can see it down here in my list again. So I have created a couple of dozen translation pairs, and these then become pairs that feed into the data which Tariq can use in his research to do probabilistic translation alignment. So not to do programmatical translation. He's not using this to create tools that will automatically translate ancient Greek into English by saying what is the most common word that has been given in the translation alignment from Memnemenos. But rather for probabilistic alignment. So when you see Memnemenos in the Greek and remembering in the English, they are probably the same. They're probably aligned to one another. So that sort of work. And also for other kinds of research into how words are translated, how words are translated in different languages, how words are translated at different dates in different genres, and so forth. This sort of research that can be done using this. And this is the sort of thing that Haytham might be interested in if you were to pull out proper names from various different texts that had been aligned, you could start to see patterns of all the different ways in which Achilles has been translated. Do they translate it literally? Do they transliterate it? Or are there different versions of the name in different languages? So Achilles is probably translated fairly literally always. It's probably Achilles becomes either Achilles or Achilles. Or Achille, or something very similar, which is Achilles in Arabic. I heard you say earlier. But a name like, Odysseus in Greek might well become Ulysses in English in some older texts. It would be Odysseus in more recent texts, but in older texts it would be using a Latin name rather than the thing. So those sorts of differences between names and differences between between the source and the translation can be used as a source of data for study. So again, you wouldn't do that study in this interface. This interface just creates the alignment and then visualizes the alignment. But you can, as you can see on this thing here, you can export from here. You can export the translation pairs. This will presumably give you just a list, and you can export as XML. You can export the text itself with the alignments in XML format. That if you want to use them in some other software to do that analysis and interpretation elsewhere, you can do that there. So what I wanted to suggest as an exercise. And some of you might want to try out Recogito as an exercise as well, and you can upload your own text as Valeria showed you at the beginning. But also try out Ugarit, the tool. Upload 2 snippets of text in 2 different languages. You can take one. You can take Ancient Greek to Arabic or any 2 languages you like, and try out this annotation and see what the alignments look like across those two. Those 2 languages. Note that if one of the texts that you want to work with is in a different language, is in a language that is not yet on this list. So if you wanted to work from, I can't off the top of my head think of a language that we don't have on there, but if there's a language which we don't yet have on that list, then you can write to Tariq Youssef, whose address I think is on this page somewhere. Well, there's a contact form on here anyway, and he will happily add another language to here for you so that you can align that. It would be nice, I think, to see more translations in Arabic appear along here. As I said, we've got Arabic aligned to 6 other languages at the moment. It'd be nice to see some Arabic aligned to. Do we have Arabic and Latin? I'm not sure we do. No, we don't have any Arabic and Latin in here yet. That's odd. Yeah. Go ahead, Usama.
Yeah, I was just saying Haytham could do this, So shall I translate now, Gabby, for this?
If you want to give a quick summary of that last part, yes, please do.
Yeah, I think أعتقد إن ده مهم قوي، والأوجاريت دي بتجاوب اللي هيثم سأل عليه تحديدا، وفكرة البيرسونز او فكره الاختلافات بين الترجمات المختلفه. اعتقد ان هيثم هنا هيفيدنا كتير قوي في ان هو يضيف لنا العبري لاوجاريت، ويضيف لنا كمان اللي هو العربي والعبري واعتقد ان انت تقدر تعمل اللغات الثانيه كمان، انك انت تقدر انك انت تحطها لنا هنا وتشوف الترانسليشن بيرز عشان تجاوب الاسئله اللي عندك بين العبري وبين العربي، بين العربي وبين اللاتيني وبين اليوناني واللاتيني وما الى ذلك. اوجاريت سهله خالص، هي زي ما جابي قال هي من طارق يوسف، هو اللي شغال عليها في لايبسيج. والفكره كلها انك انت بتاخد النص بتاعك، سهل جدا برضو تعمل ساين ان وما الى ذلك، تاخد النص بتاعك كوبي وبيست وتنظفه زي ما جابي عمل كده، بحيث ان يبقى يعني تشيل الحاجات مثلا اللاين نمبرز والحاجات اللي انت مش عايزها، يعني انت عايز بس النص كما هو. وبعدين بتبتدي انك تقول له الاين وتدي له تايتل عنوان، وبعد ما تدي له عنوان عشان يظهر بس في الداتابيز عندنا، تبتدي زي ما جابي ابتدى كده وورد فور وورد، او يعني كلمه بكلمه او عباره بعباره او فقره بفقره وتبر، او جمله بجمله، زي ما انت عايز تشتغل. مفيش حد بيفرض عليك شيء، انت بتشتغل عشان تشوف الشغل بتاعك وعشان تجاوب على الاسئله اللي في دماغك. وبالتالي ففكره ان هو انت بتختار مثلا دي مع ذن، بتختار مع اخيليس مع اخيلي، وبالتالي بتختار كل البيرز اللي موجوده. فكره الترانسليشن بيرز ديت بتبتدي انك انت اللي بتختارها واحده واحده، ومع الترجمه زي ما انتم شفتوا الواحد طب هختار دي مع ده، طب ده واحد مع واحد، طب 2 مع 2، 3 مع 2، كل ده بيغير حاجات في دماغك انت وبيفيدنا، لانك انت بتشوف الترجمات بتشتغل ازاي، وهل بتترجم بواحد باثنين بثلاثه. الباترن زي ما قال جابي كده، قال فكره الباترن، انماط الترجمه نفسها بتبقى شغاله ازاي. هل بيبقى هو اوديسيوس دي حاجه كويسه قوي ان هو قال هل هو هتقول اوديسيوس ولا اوليس ولا ايه بالظبط. وبعدين ممكن انك تعمل اكسبورت للكلام ده سواء بالاكس ام ال او تعمل لها اناليسيس في حته ثانيه. لكن هي الفكره كلها ان ده الشغل بتاع طارق يوسف، والشغل بتاعنا فكره ان احنا نعمل ترانسليشن بيرز ونجاوب على الاسئله اللي عندنا، اللي احنا نقدر من خلال الترجمات المختلفه تفيدنا ازاي في الشغل بتاعنا. Now back to you, Gabby, again.
No, I'm done. That was. I mean, if people want to ask questions or make further comments.
Okay, I would like to ask, please. That's a good idea to align between words in Greek on the one side and English or Arabic on the other side. But I would like to ask about to know the true meaning of the translation and the semi-true meaning of the translation and the error meaning of the translation. 100%, 75%, 0%. When I compare between every word in Greek and every word in English. Thank you very much.
So
I'm so sorry to make a certified translation, a true translation for every text, Greek, English, a good translation, and bad translation, semi-true, bad translation. This translation is not true. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I'd say is that the Ugarit tool is an alignment tool. It's not a translation tool itself. So it's not the place to decide whether something is a good translation or not. What it does do, it gives you a couple of options. One is if you've decided that you want to only align those words which are an exact translation of the original text, then you will see, as with this text that I have partially translated, you see the words that have been aligned are in black, and the words that have not been aligned are in grey. So if you complete your alignment, but only selecting those words which are a very, very close and exact translation, then you will very quickly see to what degree your text is an exact translation and to what degree your text is a loose translation. The grey bits are a loose translation, the black bits are a close translation. In terms of analyzing the translation further, this is something you would have to do elsewhere. I think you would have to download the alignment and work with it in some other place. The one way I could imagine you using this tool to check your own translation and to make sure your translation is an exact translation of the original is to do exactly this: upload your translation alongside the text and try to align every single word to a word in the other language. And if you can get a complete match where the entire screen has gone black instead of having no words left in grey, then you can say to yourself, yes, I've succeeded in doing what I wanted to do, which is to have a very literal translation. But Ugarit in itself doesn't require you to make a judgment as to whether a close translation is better than a loose translation or vice versa. Because sometimes a translation that reads better in the target language, is the translation you're after. It's the better translation in that sense. So Ugarit allows you to annotate the translations. It doesn't. What it doesn't allow you to say is to say, okay. Agon is gathering, but it's not an exact translation of gathering, it's a paraphrase. All it allows you to do is to say either I'm aligning it or I'm not aligning it. That's the only options it gets on this. You could then take your alignment into another tool. If you exported the translation pairs, it would give you comma-separated values, which you could open in a spreadsheet, for example, in Microsoft Excel or similar. And you could add a third column, where the first column is the Greek, the second column is the Arabic, a third column is close or loose. And you could decide to annotate, whether it's a good translation, a bad translation, paraphrase, or you could have any kind of categorization in there you wanted. But that would have to be done elsewhere. That's not something that Ugarit does as a feature.
I think that this is also, important to say that, to stress that bad and good translation is always, hard to have. زي ما جابي قال، فكره ان هو اوجريت نفسها مش بتديني اذا كانت الترجمه ديت كويسه ولا لا، هي بس بتديني الترانسليشن بيرز اللي موجودين، حد ترجمها قبل كده، وبالتالي فانا اشوف الترانسليشن بيرز ديت شكلهم ايه، ترجمت ازاي ده قبل كده، ثم بقدر ان انا انزلها داونلود واحطها في تيبل، وابتدي ان انا احط والله ده الانجليزي، انجلش، جيرمان، العربي، بعد كده احط الفرنساوي، الايطالي، وابتدي اشوف كل لغه ترجمه الكلام ده ازاي، وابتدي اشوف الحاجات المختلفه. طب وممكن حتى العربي اعمل 4 أو 5 ترانسليشنز لنفس النص مع بعض، واشوف كل واحد ضاف ايه وشال ايه وجاب ايه. اللي انا عايز برضو ازوده حاجه بسيطه، الترجمه ما في مش اكزاكت ساينس، ده عشان كده احنا بندرس اليوناني، بندرس اللغه الاصليه. فاعتقد ان دي هي فكره ان النص الاصلي هو الحاكم، ودايما يعني ترانسليشن او فكره اكزاكت ترانسليشن ديت، كل واحد بيعمل ترانسليشن بيقول هي دي الاكزاكت ترانسليشن، بس طبعا ما اعتقدش يعني كل واحد بيضيف اديشن او اوميشن على حسب اللي يعمل. بس في النهايه وجريت كاداه بتدينا ترانسليشن بيرز قدامنا، لكن فكره بقى هل هي اكزاكت ولا مش اكزاكت، هل المعنى صحيح، هل السيمانتيك فيلد بتاعه صح ولا، دي حاجه ما نقدرش ان احنا نشوفها بشكل في اوجريت يعني. واعتقد ان هي لها برضو، ده بقى الريسيرش يعني، هو ده الداتا اللي انت بتشتغل عليها، تقول والله ده كان هنا وكان هنا، وده الشغل اللي انا الكلمه دي كان المفروض تتعمل كذا وما الى ذلك، وبالتالي فده هو ده الشغل بتاعنا. لكن اوجريت في حد ذاتها ترانسليشن بيرز، وبالتالي فتقدر انك انت تقدر تشوف فيجوالايز، تقدر تشوف قدامك كده الترانسليشن نفسها، ايه اللي اترجم ايه اللي ما اترجمش نسوق. تمام. فهي دي اعتقد ان دي اوجريت. واعتقد ان انت لو حطيت النصوص بتاعتك هتبتدي، يعني التمرين اللي جاي بيقول عليه، لو انت حطيت مجموعه من النصوص وانت شغال الاجابات هتطلع لك، يعني حطيت نص عربي مع نص عبري، انت وانت شغال هتلاقي نفسك طب ده ينفع، طب ده فاعتقد ان هو التجربه اللي انت هتعملها بعد الحلقه بتاعتنا دي ان شاء الله، سواء في روكوجيتو او في اوجريت، وتعرفنا ايه رايك في الاثنين. يعني هتحط نفس النص هنا وهنا، تبتدي الاسئله بقى هتبتدي عندك في اسئله كبيره قوي، طب ايه اللي استفدته، طب لا ما استفدتش، طب النمد انت دي كويس، طب الترجمه كويس، and so on. Is there any, في أي أسئلة تانية؟ منى، عائشة،
Please, Doctor, I would like to ask. I know that's very clear for me. I know well ancient Greek, but someone don't know very well ancient Greek, as like historian person who study history. So if you wanted to know the better translation of the Greek text, to read that translation, to know some information about the Greek text, he did not learn ancient Greek well, but he tried to learn. So if he wanted to the better text, the best text of the Greek, the best text, the best translation of the Greek text, to know some information, to know some anything about he wanted to know. Thank you.
يعني اعتقد يعني ممكن I will answer this. I think it's important always to have the original, the source, historian, archaeologist, whatever you are doing. اهم حاجه يبقى عندك النص الاصلي، لان بدون النص الاصلي بيضيع علامات كتير. اعتقد ان ارسطو فكره انك بتضيف معاني جديده على فلسفه ارسطو دي بقت معروفه للناس كلها، وبالتالي الناس مثلا اي فيلسوف لازم يعرف النص الاصلي عشان يفهم ارسطو كان بيقول ايه. وعشان كده دايما احنا الكلاسيكيين او كلاسيكست بيبقى عندنا دايما احنا اصحاب اللغه، وبالتالي فلازم يرجع لنا. لكن هو صحيح بيبقى متخصص في الفلسفه، بس الفكره كلها ان ارسطو مر بمراحل تلقي كتيره قوي لدرجه ان النص بتاعه لازم ترجع لكلامه، لازم ترجع للنص الاصلي الاوريجينال. فكلامك سليم، المؤرخ لازم يرجع للنص الاصلي. لو هتقول له هساعدك بافضل ترجمه، لكن في النهايه تحذره برضو ان الترجمه هي ليست ترجمه، ما فيش ترجمه تغني عن النص. ممكن نتكلم زي ما انت بتقول كده عن الترجمات، لكن النص الاصلي السورس، ذا جريك لانجوج، ذا لاتين لانجوج، ذا لاتين تكست، ذا جريك تكست هو الاصل. لكن ممكن تقول له والله حسن لغتك زي ما انت قلت كده، وبعدين ايه نتكلم. لكن والله ممكن تبتدي بالترجمه دي اسهل، دي ابسط، دي مباشره، دي وات ايفر. لكن النص الاصلي دائما هو الحاكم. حتى في العربي مثلا، حتى يعني احنا في العربي برضو يقول لك ايه مثلا النص الاصلي هو الحاكم، يعني النص العربي هو الحاكم. لكن الترجمات برضو في النهايه اعتقد ان هي النقطه دي بتبقى دايما، عشان كده بقول لك اهل التخصص. وبالتالي فاعتقد ان اهل التخصص دايما هو يعني اهل مكه ادرى بشعبها يعني. منى، عائشه، do you want to say something؟ لو في العربي حتى مش مشكله، قولوا لي وانا هترجم، ما فيش اي مشكله خالص. لو ما فيش اسئله اعتقد ان هو تبقى حلقه جميله، واتمنى ان الحاجات دي تساعدكم في الشغل بتاعكم. الاكسرسايز يا ريت التدريبات ديت، سواء في منى عايز تقولي حاجه؟
يا دكتور، هو بالنسبه للوكاجيت والتخصص الاستراكه ده ممكن يساعدني في حاجه، او ممكن ازاي ادخل النص على الموقع نفسه؟
Mona asks about how she could upload a text, a papyrological text from a papyrus or from an ostraka, upload it to the Rukugito. Is this possible, Fabi? Could you unmute yourself, Fabi?
Yes. Yes, you can either upload the transcription of the text in text format, or if you have photographs of the original object, you can also annotate directly the photograph. As I showed you, you can select a portion of the photograph where the word is, and you can annotate the word. Or if you have the transcription, you can work in text format. That's up to you. You can also do both if there is value in doing both. And if you have a collection of ostraka, and if that is something that is useful, you can also annotate them all together and compare, for example, the place references. Like the example that I showed you about the inscriptions in the Theatre of Dionysus. Those were different inscriptions that made, let's say, a mini corpus, and they had all been annotated together so that all the place references could be visualized together on the same map, but you could still see the single documents individually.
I will translate this, but I think Mona could also connect with you in this, and you could give her a detailed description. Mona طبعا الفكرة كلها الرئيسية انك تقدري سواء تعملي الصور او تعملي النص نفسه، والمساعدة الرئيسية ليكي في الشغل بتاعك ان ده يعتبر الكوربس بتاعك، مجموعة بتاعتك اللي شغال عليها. تقدري تعملي فكره الريفرنس، البليس ريفرنسز بتاعتها، يعني والله المجموعه بتاعتي كلها بتتكلم عن المنطقه الفلانيه. تقدري تقولي الكلام ده من خلال الروكوجيتو، سواء في البحث بتاعك تقدري تعملي له الكلام ده، او انك انت شغاله تبقي عارفه ان المنطقه بتاعتك الاستراكه بتاعتك بتتكلم عن مثلا ادفو او بتتكلم عن الفيوم and so on. فده هيفيدك في النقطه دي ان هو بيعمل لك فيجواليزنج للبليس ريفرنس، بتتكلمي على اي مجموعه من الفيليجز، وبالتالي فده سهل. وسواء النص تي اكس تي لازم يبقى تي اكس تي، ده برضو دكتوره فاليريا تقدر تساعدك فيه، او الايمج بتاعتك تقدري تطلعها كلها على بعضها وتبتدي تعملي البليس او البليس ريفرنسز دول كلهم مع بعض، وتبتدي تقولي تعمل انيتيشن عليهم من غير حتى ما تعملي ترانسكرايب، يعني عليهم نفسهم كده على اليوناني بتاعهم ده كذا وده كذا وده كذا وده كذا، وبالتالي ففي النهايه يبقى عندك ماب او فكره عامه، تصور عام للكلام ده. And I think you could connect with Dr. Valeria and see what you can do with her.
Definitely, anytime.
So yeah.
Thank you very much.
عائشة, do you have any question؟ لو معاك أي سؤال أو حاجة في المصدر infinitive.
دكتور بخصوص النتورك، ينفع
والصوت بتاعك بعيد شوية يا عائشة، احنا سامعينك بس لو تعالي صوت شوية.
My question is for network. ينفع يا دكتور أسامة مثلا نقسم الجملة لstatements as adverb, as a subject if in the middle.
أنا ما سمعتكيش كويس، هو الصوت بعيد شوية بس.
حضرتك سامعني كده؟
I cannot hear you well. لو تعلي صوتك بس شوية. أنا سمعت أنت تقريبا بتتكلم عن الفعل subject and verb، بس مش قادر أفهم. لو تعلي بس صوتك أقدر إن أنا أسمعك.
تمام، حضرتك سامعني؟ دكتور أسامة حضرتك سامعني كده؟
كده أحسن little bit، كده أحسن.
بخصوص النتورك، حضرتك سامعني ولا ايه؟ حضرتك سامعني؟
سامعك. انت بتتكلمي عن النتورك، بتتكلمي عن الشبكه. ازاي عايزه تعرفي ازاي تعملي شبكه، ولا عايزه تعرفي تعملي ايه؟ انت قلتي الاول سبجكت وفيرب وبعدين قلتي الشبكه.
بالنسبه للفور جرامر الخاص بالستيتمنت، مثلا عايزه اقسمها ان مثلا الانفينيتيف ان ذا ميدل، وبعد كده بيبقى في اسهم طالعه مثلا بالنسبه ان المصدر as subject يعني any word in the statement as adverb and accusative subject يعني وهكذا. يعني قصدي ان انا ممكن اعمل الجمله واقسمها بحيث ان اللي يكون بيشوف مثلا البحث بتاعي يفهم ان انا بخصوص ان الانفينيتيف عندي بيجي accusative ساعات، وبيجي subject ساعات، وبيجي كمان فاعل لمصدر اخر. فالحكايه دي بتبقى فيها لخبطه شويه، فممكن انا استخدم النتورك في حاجه زي كده.
اعتقد انا دلوقتي فهمتك. ده اعتقد ان ده تري بانكينج، بس انا هدي السؤال ده لفاليريا برضو. Aisha asks about how she could, visualize the relationship between. She's working with the infinitive, so she wants to visualize the subject, the object. What is the relationship between these entities? And she asks whether this is, a possibility in Rikugito itself. And I think Gabby could, talk about the tree banking in this regard. So. Go ahead, so please.
No, I was just throwing up the screenshot from Arethusa there, which is the tree banking tool. I think rather than Recogito, which in theory you could customize it to embed lots and lots of morphological information in the interface as through tags or whatever. But what you're talking about is morphological and syntactic annotation, and that's something that Arethusa, the tree banking tool, is specifically designed for. We didn't talk about that today, but there have been Sunoikis sessions on this if you want, and we can give you a link to something you can have a look at. Or we could talk about it in a future session. And that is specifically designed for annotating text, saying this word is the noun, it is in this case, it is in this number, and so forth. And it has a subjective relationship to the predicate verb of the sentence, and that gives you then this massive network of sentences where you can pull out specific infinitives, you can pull out infinitives in particular constructions, infinitives with or without object, nouns, etc. From that. I think that would be much more useful, I think, because it's specifically designed for this function.
فعلا يا عائشه، الفكره كلها زي ما قلت لك انك ممكن فعلا تستخدمي روكوجيتو بهذا الشكل يعني انوفيتيف، لكن الاحسن الاداه اللي معموله بقى للسنتاكتيكال انوتيشن، يعني فكره انك انت زي ما انت قلتي كده تقولي ده الانفينيتيف، والله ده بياخد مفعول به، لا ده ما بياخدش مفعول به، والله ده مش معاه فاعل، ده هو بارتيسيبل مثلا، وهكذا. تقدري ان تعملي الكلام ده من خلال الديبندنسي جرامر ومن خلال التري بانك اللي بتقدري تعملي بيها شبكه كبيره قوي زي ما انت شايفه كده. اريثوسا احنا ما اتكلمناش عليها المره دي، بس زي ما دكتور جبريل اتكلم وقال، نمره واحد SunoikisisDC هنبعت لك بعض الوصلات للحلقات اللي قبل كده ازاي تشتغل عليها، ازاي تعملي تري بانكينج، وتحت فيه اللي هو التوتوريال اللي هو موجود حتى جابي بيوريه لنا، وسهل جدا ما فيهوش مشكله خالص انك انت تبداي فيها. او ان شاء الله باذن الله ممكن في حلقات تانية ممكن ان احنا نعمل حلقه خاصه على التري بانكينج والديبندنسي جرامر، ونبتدي ان احنا نتكلم عليها ونتكلم على ازاي تعملي تقولي ده السبجكت ده الفيرب، وبالتالي تعملي فيجواليزيشن زي ما انت بتقولي للجزء اللي عندك بالالوان وما الى ذلك، وتحطيها تعملي سكرين شوت وتحطيها عندك في الرساله بتاعتك، بحيث انك تقولي والله ده كذا، ده سبجكت، ده اوبجكت، ده من غير، ده وداوت اوبجكت، ده في مفعول به، ده ملوش فيه مفعول به، وده في العربي بيبقى الشكل ده، اما في اليوناني بيبقى بالشكل ده، وهكذا. وبالتالي فاعتقد ان انت السؤال بتاعك مهم، واعتقد ان اريثوسا البرنامج دوت او اريثوسا هو اللي يجاوب لك على الكلام ده. بس معلش يعني احنا تقريبا خدنا وقت كبير قوي في روكوجيتو والترانسليشن الاينمنت المره دي، بس باذن الله ان شاء الله يعني هنعمل لها حاجه باذن الله في المستقبل. I think now we have past one hour and a half, and I'm really happy to have done this with all of you. Was Scabby, thank you very much for being here and giving us this presentations. Valeria, thank you very, very much for this. I'm very happy that you have given us all this. I have myself learned a lot. منى شكرا ليكي، وبصراحة مبسوط انك انت شرفتينا. هيثم انا بصراحة مبسوط بوجودك ودايما تشرفنا. عائشة نفس الحكاية، أنا مبسوط جدا إنك أنت قدرتي المرة دي تكوني موجودة معانا. صدقيني إن شاء الله يعني بإذن الله هنعمل حلقة جديدة للأريثوس، وهنبعت لك الوصلات بتاعة SunoikisisDC. thank you all. شكرا لكم جميعا. thank you very much. It was fun.
Thank you all very much. This has been really really good, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.